¿Dónde te vive? Sí, pero ¿en qué calle? Por- Usted también puede ir a la oficina de la concejal Camila Rosa. Sí, y ellos tienen, o sea, ellos y usted puede ir, porque ellos están abiertos, o sea, el lunes a viernes. Este lunes no, me imagino que están cerrados porque este lunes es un día de fiesta, pero si usted puede ir mañana, y hay gente ahí que te pueden ayudar en tu caso. La oficina de Carmen Shaw, Carmen. Déjame ver que yo, antes que me voy a meter a la oficina de ella.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Thank you, Indiana, for joining. Just make sure that you're. Would you mind writing Indiana's name?
Sure, yeah.
Why is she sorry? Thank you. I will also. Okay. Hi, Monica. Nice to see you online.
I saw an email from Marshall. He said, "Good evening, waiting on a link for the call."
Yes, he should have. It's the same one that we use all the time, but I will send it to him. I just noted that too. Thank you.
Sure. If it's the same one that I got, I can send it to you. I'm happy to help.
If you wouldn't mind, please, that
Yeah,
would be
no
super
problem.
helpful.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
sure thing.
Okay. Hi, Louis. Nice to see you.
How are you?
Good.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. My name is Monica.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for
the
having
invite.
us.
Yes, for sure. Can I just check, will you need to present anything? Present slides or something? Okay. So what I'll do is you let me know who will do that. I'll give you host privileges so that you can share your screen. And then we'll do that. But thank you for joining. We'll probably wait another minute or two and then we'll get started. We do not have quorum yet, so we can still start without having quorum, but just noting that for the record.
We'll wait. No, not a rush.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. I need to sign in here too, so I can share my screen. Oh, goodness. Yeah, you guys haven't.
I'm Sonia. And I have the notes tonight, so
That doesn't have it.
that's why I asked.
I need to like promote myself. This is weird. I'll go to that. It's balanced. Okay. There we go. It's really weird, like looking at yourself on the screen. I'm like, 'cause I'm on my computer, because I need to share my screen later. It's just, yeah, really odd. Let me see. Okay, great. Okay. I'm gonna recommend that we get started, then we can,
Still ready to vote right away. You have to put it on your day whenever you're ready to rock and roll.
sounds good. Is it already showing live? Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have put it away.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started because we do have a long agenda to discuss the budget priorities. All right, I'll wait till Michelle comes back. So as I mentioned to, just checking that everyone can hear us online still. Just a thumbs
Yes,
up.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. Whoa. Here we go, there's the mouse. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. It is 7:07, but we cannot call this meeting to order because we do not have quorum, but we can start. And yeah, we'll just kind of start the meeting. So I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to the October meeting of the Housing and Human Services Committee for Community Board 12. Welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. The weather is getting colder outside, so I hope everyone's bundling up. What we actually have a pretty lengthy agenda. We don't have too many items, but the items that we do have are of a lot of substance, and I'm really excited to kind of go through it today. So first, we're going to have a presentation from the Family Enrichment Center by Luis Cruz and his colleague Monica Harris. And then we kind of have our standing agenda items of monthly updates from elected representatives, monthly updates from community-based organizations, and then, of course, the discussion on budget priorities, which will kind of take a big portion of our discussion this evening. I have not received any updates from elected, so I'm not sure. I don't think any are joining us this evening. I did send out a mass invite to a lot of CBOs to join us for kind of the monthly updates portion of the agenda. I'm not sure if colleagues will join us tonight, but either way, we still have kind of a pretty robust agenda anyway. So we'll go around and kind of do our usual and start with our rounds of introductions, and then we'll turn it over to the colleagues at Family Enrichment Center. Maybe we can start within the room. Would you like to go ahead and start?
And I am a member of this committee. Hi, I'm Sonia Figueroa Pagan, and I'm also a member of this committee.
She's with the emperor, right? But you gotta vote for Leia this time, because, yeah, that's the first thing.
Marshall, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Democrats, though, 'cause
Oh, jump on the stage, huh? I'm Marshall Vanderpool.
appealing to Republicans.
I'm a public member for the Housing and Human Services Committee, Community Board 12. I formerly was the first vice president of the Dykeman Resident Association, fighting for our homes here. And I'll be brief. I'm going to land.
That's something that is.
Thanks, Marshall. Good to see you. And Deanna, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, all. I'm Indiana Porta, and I am a member of the Housing and Human Services Committee and also Land Use.
Wonderful. And I'm Marielle Ali, and I am chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee. Thank you all so much for joining. I also want to note that we have members in the public as well on our Zoom, so thank you for joining as well. Do enjoy the meeting, and there will be opportunities for you to ask questions and engage in the discussion as well, so thank you. With that, Louis, I'm going to turn it over to you. Will you present, or will it be Monica?
I will be, we both are going to present, but I will be managing the slides.
Okay, so just give me a second to give you sharing privileges. Okay. And then let me know if you're able to share your screen.
Can you see my screen?
No,
No.
not yet.
Thank you for your patience.
Not a worry. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
How about now?
Yes.
All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Cruz. I'm the community liaison for the Family Enrichment Center from Washington Heights and Inwood. I would like to thank Marielle Lee for inviting us today to present at the Housing and Human Services Committee. With me is my colleague, our family advocate, Monica Harris. Monica, if you would like to.
Good evening. Thank you all for the tremendous work that you do. And thank you for allowing us.
Sorry, Monica, excuse me for 1 second. Would you mind speaking closer to the microphone? We just want to make sure that we can hear you and that our friends and community residents can also hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Is that better?
Much better. We want to
Thank-
make sure to hear whatever the good news you have to share, the important information.
I appreciate, thank you again for your patience. Thank you again for having us here. As Louis stated, I am the family advocate at the FEC, which is the Family Enrichment Center of Washington Heights and Inwood. And I'm very grateful to be here to share the wonderful opportunity and the wonderful building opportunities that the FEC will offer the community and all of its members. Thank you for having us here.
Minute. Okay. All right. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about what is an FEC, our backbone agency, where we are, what do you envision in our FEC, and getting how you can get involved. What is an FEC? In 2017, the New York City Administration for Children's Services developed the Family Enrichment Center FEC model, fully operated by local organizations known for their knowledge of community. The centers are a place for creativity and hope, guided by the belief that the parents and other community members are the experts in their lives. The center fosters conditions that help all family members be their best selves. While not two centers are the same, all are based on a co-design approach that encourage community ownership, respect, and equality. A successful center helps to uplift the enormous strength in each child, youth, and adult who walks through its doors and supports healthy and family functioning. The FEC model is the result of 18 months of research, development, and input from community providers and other stakeholders. It is shaped by the strengthened families and a family protective factor approach created by the Center of Study of Social Policy. The early success of the FEC has been mainly due to the dedication and resilience of community members who view the center staff as their extended family and the FEC as their second home. Here, at the FEC, we always said that the FEC is a home away from home. And initially, this model has been launched by 3 local organizations. The first one was in Hudson Point, Longwood in the Bronx, East New York, High Ridge. The centers are co-led by an advisory group and committed community members who choose the center's name, decide the decor, and help spread the word to others who might need some support or have an interest in giving back to the community. And this initiative, this model of the FECs, is gonna, by the end of this year, is going to be spread out throughout the 5 boroughs. It's going to be a citywide model, and by the end of the year, there will be 30 FECs around the 5 boroughs, and one of them will be in Washington Heights. We're going to be located at the GW market. That's the GW bus terminal. That's between 178 and 179 in Fort Washington. Our center is under construction, and we hope to open by the end of December or the beginning of next year. Monica, if you have something to add or would like to.
Thank you, Lord. That was excellent. So yeah, the whole initiative is to help people maintain their sense of autonomy and ownership of their lives. And by giving the support through the model of the 5 protective factors will help them acquire and reach their full potential through self-determination. Sometimes, you have to just meet people wherever they are, and everyone's needs are different. So this model kind of speaks to that acknowledgement and in the sense of community through our offerings, because that's what the name of the experiences that we curate with community, it's called offerings. It does. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the protective factors and the model where there were studies shown that when these protective factors are placed forefront in the center of human service, it really allows people to find their strengths, to further develop their resiliency and understand what it is that they want to personally develop and also from a community lens. They are parental resilience, social connection, knowledge of parenting and child development, concrete support in times of need, social and emotional competency of children, economic mobility, and community. So the last 2 were very specifically added on by ACS. Concrete support is just speaking to knowing where to go if you need resources. It could be a doctor's office. It could be a therapist's office. Knowing where those spaces are in community. Knowledge of parenting and child development is accessing supportive information that will help parents be the best guides they could possibly be for their children. Social connections kind of speaks to itself, creating a safe space within community. And parental resilience is learning through shared lived experiences what tools that you've developed that you may not even realize, because we just process life as, life happens and we get through it and we go through it. But as we are gaining momentum, there are things that we learn about ourselves, about different processes in life, about the world and the community around us. When we have offerings, it's kind of, I'll give you a little bit of an example. It would be a gathering where we always bring food. We have giveaways, and we also always have a raffle. Food, because that is really the center of just people coming together. Everyone loves to eat and needs to eat. We may have an offering around, let's say, safety. So we would gather the community members that would be attending in the room through invitation, and we would talk about, to the room, the question will be opened, what does safety mean to you? And if I asked that question to the 4 of us, we all would very likely have different answers, because safety means different things to different people, considering your experience lived, where you are in your life, and what you need most to feel safe. So we all hear the responses, and everyone will get an idea about a different lens on safety. And then we break out into smaller groups, which is usually they're paired off at tables. And on the tables would be prompt questions. At the table, the tables would be grouped off with 2 people, coupled off, and each person will take an opportunity to ask the question to the person that they're paired with, and then it will be reversed, and the person asking the question will listen. Towards the ending of that shared, there will be a person that will stand up and share out in the room what was discussed at the table without naming names, to protect the privacy of people, to decide when and how they want to identify with their experiences openly, but share in a way that is an offering to each other for us to learn from one another. And then towards the ending, we have little cards and envelope, and we ask people to write down on that index card in that envelope, how do you create safety in your own life and community? What are you committed to doing to create a greater sense of safety for yourself and others? And we ask them to keep that as a reminder of what is possible and to also acknowledge what they have been able to do. So that's how the protective factors come into play. As of now, we're not open. So I've basically been curating trust in the community, letting the community know that if they have needs, I'm here. I've been able to very successfully help quite a few community members individually. But as you hear, community members may come to you with a concern. I'm here to support their processes collectively, but also individually. And as the Family Enrichment Center is up and running, they'll be able to come in and really get a sense of being home. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, Louis and I would love to hear from you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit more about our backbone agency. Our backbone agency is Children's Arts and Science Workshops. Children's Arts and Science Workshops was founded in 1968. It's been serving this community for 56 years now, and it's everything. The organization, the background information of our backbone agency started when a group of parents and community members got together to advocate and fight for cultural and academic and cultural enrichment programs for our kids and our youth. And the program was so successful that they made the decision to continue with the programming even after the strike. Where we are, we're hiring a new director, the community liaison. I'm the community liaison, our family advocate, Monica Harris. Since last year, we're being engaging with we have started our early community engagement since last year. Our site selection, which is the GW bus terminal, and now we're working on this site naming. We're working on our naming campaign where the community is going to decide, is going to submit proposals with names that they would like to name our FEC, and then they will vote for the name that they feel that is best and represent our community.
I don't want to just gloss over that part, if I may. That is super important with the model, because this is a space that belongs to community. So it's very intentional and seeking for the community to decide what that name should be in the space that is there for them. It's very intentional, and there's an opportunity to win $1,000 if the name that you submit is selected.
Yes, and right now we're hearing from the community in terms of what their needs are, and based on their needs, we're going to base our offerings. We're going to base our offerings based on their community needs. and we're waiting for our grand opening. We've been waiting for a year, yeah, like around a year for our center to open. This is an example of how our center is going to look like. This is the living room, our common space, and we're going to have a quiet room, a confidential room, and an office space around this area. This is going to be the entrance inside the bus terminal. It's going to be on Suite 16 next to the train station. So if you get off at 175th and you walk all towards the tunnel, you will be right there next to the train station at 175th on the A train.
Can I just add
Yes.
something? I just started working in March, but the community members that were gathered chose the space because it was convenient for everyone to access. I think that's also very
Yes.
intentional with the model, and very important to note. Thank you.
Absolutely. And this is going to be the kitchen slash our like the room for where we're going to host our events, especially our parents cafes and workshops and other community initiatives that we might have. A fun fact about this design is that parents are going to, while they're while they're participating on any of our offerings, they will be able to see their child. So this is going to be this at the end is the kids zone, and this is how it looks like. So while they're participating in one of our offerings, they will be able to see their kids. You know, sometimes when when we when excuse me when sometimes you don't trust when someone is taking care of your child. So and sometimes there is a little bit of anxiety of, well, where's my kid? What they're doing? So this is a convenient way.
Stay there.
Sorry, one of the other things I wanted to add is that we're gonna have a mural painted inside the space
This is it right
that
here.
will in that section that will be led hopefully, by a local artist, and would curate workshops so that the community can have input, but not just talking about the creation of the mural. There'll also actually be a segment of it where the community will actually participate and help create the mural. Again, the intentionality is for ownership and, an acknowledgement and a recognition to ACS for thinking, how can we do business differently that really helps people feel very much in control of their destiny without fear of being punished or harmed? Well, this is it. This is a new way of looking at how to help people help themselves and how communities can help each other. Thank you.
Now, we would like to ask you, what do you envision in our FEC?
So it's open to us now.
Again.
Do you hear my question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I was just trying to check.
So,
I
oh
see-
yeah, it's your, okay, you need some time to think about how you.
No, so, yeah, I mean, I see that my colleague, Indiana has raised, her hand. I
Okay.
guess maybe I'll give a moment for everyone else to kind of have a think as well, but just, I guess for me, an initial reaction, really appreciate, as you mentioned, Monica, and you, Louis, as well, the intentionality of that, and that very much grassroots approach. Ensuring that throughout the entire process that there's community input. So the fact that, community members helped, pick the location of where this is going to be, I think is really amazing. To the name and to, in the future, as you mentioned, the mural. And so do keep us posted when those things are happening so that we can share, even maybe it's a link in the community newsletter or things like that. There's a couple other things that I wanted to share as well. I would recommend a presentation to the Youth and Education Committee as well.
Mhm.
And possibly even joining one of the future general meetings. During the general segment, there's like the 2-minute speaking, and I can send this to both of you on email as well. Just
Yeah,
to kind of say,
we have presented, by the way, the first committee that we presented was the Youth and Education Committee.
Right.
I see that the vice chair of the Youth and Education Committee, Tanisha Grant, is here with us.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was, and then this is our second presentation at CB12.
No, that's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
we will join we'll do our best to be on every general meeting to keep the community informed or on our upcoming events and any offerings or any updates we might have.
Perfect. And then just one other thing, and then I'll turn it over to Indiana. I mean, we have a standing agenda item on our list, which is just monthly updates from
Oh.
community organizations. So even if it's, just jumping on, our call, for 5-10 minutes to share an update around, hey, we're now ready to start the process for the, the mural. This is the process. Can you please share this with community members? That's the opportunity and space to do that. So please, you can also join us as come back
Yes.
to the committee. So
Our next upcoming event is the breast cancer walk.
Okay.
We're recruiting a community walking group to join us on October the 20th. We will provide breakfast, transportation, and food and lunch to all attendees. So we did share two days ago with CB12 so they can add it on the newsletter. So yeah. So they can they can help us spreading out the word.
Sounds good. I haven't seen it just yet because I don't think the
Yeah,
newsletter
no,
will come out.
it's not up yet, but it
Yeah.
might be by the end of this week. Or next.
Sounds good. Thank you. Indiana, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for this presentation. It looks like such an amazing center and it's really, really exciting. I do apologize. I had to step away for like 2 minutes, 1 minute. My mom called and so I may have missed it, but is this only for families that have children or it's open to anyone? Okay, so it's like a single independent woman. I can
Anyone,
show up
For
and
the
anyone.
take
whole
part.
community.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Anyone, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
And
Exciting.
confidentiality will be always respected. We won't ask for any personal information.
Great.
People can just walk in and they can have food or they can have a cafecito and just sit and relax.
Amazing. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then the only other thing, it's not really a question, but I'm a wheelchair user. So just putting it on folks' radar to please keep that in mind as you're developing this space. that would be great. So thank you so much. This is exciting.
Thank you for naming and saying that, and you're worthy and welcome. Thank you.
Yes, and is wheelchair accessible, the place. So that's one thing that we did have that we did pay attention to when choosing the space of our center.
Just want to open it up to members here in case anyone has any initial thoughts or, you know, what is it? Oh, sorry, I know the little screen. What do you envision in our FEC?
I have a question. I'm interested in knowing how, or the strategies that are going to be used to promote the center to the community.
That's a great question. So far, we have been using electronic outlets. We have been emailing. We have a website, and part of our outreach is connecting with other organizations and hoping that they would submit our information in their pools. But yeah, any help that you all are willing to or able to assist us with that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and we also have been tabling on every community event to let the community members that there is an FEC coming to the community. That's a goal. That's our main priority of right now, and a recommendation by ACS that we must work on promoting and spreading the word that an FEC is coming to the community.
If I can build on Sonia's question, and then I see Indiana has another point.
Yes.
How has your engagement been with the District 6? And has there been any engagement with District 6?
Monica,
Superintendent.
you have me.
Oh, okay, so they were present at the Tuesday meeting. Perfect.
No, it's in the movie.
Yeah, we'll see. You met with the Superintendent Martinez.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's obviously a great outlet. Wonderful. Indiana?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I just had one follow-up question. I saw on some of the slides and I was kind of poking around the website. What is the relationship with ACS?
They are our funders.
Okay,
And I might have said it earlier, and it might have been when you were not on,
yes,
but
sorry about
it's an
that.
incentive, an initiative to have restorative justice in a new framing for social service and community support. We know far too often, you know, unintentional and intentional harm has the same impact. People end up hurt. And when it's unintentional, you kind of look at things and kind of figure out how could things be done differently to lessen the potential of someone being harmed. So ACS have the wherewithal, like I said, to participate and have the study done, curated, to see what would, in a general sense, work best for people to be able to survive, but not only survive, thrive to their self-determination on the 5 protective factors that we spoke of earlier, led and what was able to rise to the surface because the case study showed that it works, and here we are. So as my colleague said earlier, there will be 9 additional FECs by the end of the year that have been built, but they are being built all over the city. And I think the real thing to focus and hone in on is every community has different needs. Different communities have different cultures. So when you have this done as an initiative where there are parent CBOs that have been there, that have their finger on the pulse of the people, you connect with them and you build out this work from a different lens. So I just think it's very powerful. I feel very passionate about it. I connect with this work because I feel like it's an opportunity to create a better movement in humanity and how we see ourselves and how we see in relationship each other. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does, yeah, thank you. I know that there's sometimes fear about engaging with ACS, and so, I think it's wonderful to just have a better understanding of like what the relationship is, so that as we hear, or if we hear any concerns in the community, we can kind of speak to that a little bit or point them in the right direction and encourage them to come and speak to you. So thank you.
I'm so grateful, so very grateful that you named that and you said that, because like I said, I hold space. I think we move as an agency to hold space for whatever anyone's lived harm is. And I think when we curate those spaces in different organizations, in different spaces and community, we are restoring people's humanity and elevating that, because that is what is important. And this model, it's very hard to probably visualize, but if you were able to be present in an offering, it almost seems magical. I don't want to sound airy-fairy, but I don't know how else to describe it. The movement that happens, the synergy that is created, how people begin to see their own experiences from a different lens of strength and resilience in each other, it translates to something then greater than just individuals going through things. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that.
Thank you both. Sonia, I think you have a question.
I do. I have another question. I'm hearing, as an educator, I'm hearing a lot of educational terms. And like Maria, am I pronouncing it correctly? Stated, is there a way of making, and just the term synergy, is there a way of connecting with the actual schools in the community? Maybe, I don't know, through the PTAs or their parent coordinators, or?
Yep. We're working on all of that. Specifically, Louis and I have been working on all of that. I am hopefully this week coming, I've got an invitation to have a table of coffee, information about the FEC, but also information about our naming. So that will give me an opportunity to be a face of a family advocate that's present, but also an opportunity for them to learn about the FEC. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've spoken to a couple of PTA presidents and been to quite a few meetings, and people are knowing, I think, because this work is really being built out by Louis and I, it's taking its time, but the momentum that's being created is that people are seeing us. We're consistent with the same message. And as an advocate, I've really had the opportunity to show up in instances where, it was highly unlikely that someone would show up and maintain the same grace and humanity and compassion that every single human being from my lens is worthy of. It's been a privilege to do that, I would say, but it also allows people to see that when I say I'm here, I mean that. My information is out there. I think Louis has it on the slide. Feel free to share it with community members that you think may be able to benefit from extra support. My background, I'm a birth worker, I've been a doula. I see part of my advocacy interconnected with that. Sometimes doulaing means just being a witness to help to remind somebody of their humanity while they go through their process. Because sometimes, life can be overburdensome and overwhelming, and it's easy to forget that. So I feel like it definitely comes useful in the lens of me serving community. It's very important. I actually had the opportunity to doula for a community member's mother that was unplanned. She called and I showed up and it happened. So if, there's a way that I can support your work, if there's a way that I can support your community members, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else here have questions? No. I just have, just going back to, okay, I see Marshall does. Marshall, over to you and then I'll add my points.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The renderings that I saw, it portrayed a rather intimate space. I was wondering, how many people would you be at maximum having at these forums?
I think the space might be in a community event, I would say 30, 40 people might. Because our center is under construction. What the renderings, what is shown on the renderings, might be modified. I haven't been at their space, but it's a 2,000 square feet space.
No,
Thanks.
well, I'm not trying to pin you down
but
or
it's just,
anything like that. But
I'm
I'm just trying to get a vibe for the space. I mean, the renderings look like a living room, like you are at home.
Yeah, it's a home away from home.
Okay, but now I'm just thinking about how many people you would be able to accommodate for I mean, you suggested larger events. I'm just trying to get a feel for what your goal would be in that sense. Okay.
I think your question is spot on, and it's accurate to say that it's going to be a space that is curated, and the way it's designed is for community. To be able to give you an exact number is a little hard, and I think Louis took a shot at it, but as it's continued to be built out, because it's basically still a shell phase. It's hard to say exactly. Once it's up, then we would have a better idea. But
Right.
the design and the intentionality behind it is to be able to use that space in a way for community gatherings, but also for intimacy and privacy when people need that kind of space for sharing or for coming there and receiving services. So I don't know if that helps or if that gives a little clarity.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to get a feel. I mean, you have goals, you have ideas, and I'm just trying to get a vibe for that. And well, you've answered my question. I thank you.
No, I thank you, and you're worthy and you're welcome. You asking makes me know that you're invested in learning more about the space, and I'm grateful for that. And like I said, as it continues to be built out, those answers will be with more precision and accuracy. But it is a community space.
Absolutely.
And it looks like a living room because that's intentional. We always say it's supposed to be a home away from home. So the design element is supposed to be welcoming, comforting, and of course it could be curated to look more like an office. But then that removes us from the aspect of it looking like a space where people can just come and be in comfort and feel comforted.
Thank you, Monica. To your, because I know we kind of slightly segued and started asking questions rather than answering your question. which is around what do we envision in the FEC or in kind of the community's FEC. Kind of three things came to mind, and something that we hear a lot here at a community board around access to community space. So helpful to hear from you all as you're thinking about, designing the programming. Will there be opportunities, let's say, for small community groups to use the space?
Absolutely.
Maybe members of the community want to have like a book club or something.
Yes.
So those types of things, which is great to hear. I'm hearing a yes, which that's really exciting to hear. And so just following up on that then, as a parent, I think there's always a lack of or not sufficient after school care for, for parents or kind of those with dependents. And then if you can talk a little bit about, will there be kind of weekend programming? So thinking about, as you mentioned, the community that we serve, in most cases, people are, it's a working class community, in terms of the timing of when these programming is offered. So in the evenings, weekends, that it's not just a strictly 9 to 5 type of thing, that it's accessible in terms of timing.
Yes.
Absolutely. Everything you said is things that we have been talking about, but more importantly, if I can't impress upon you enough that the model and the case study is, this is all going to come from community. Typically, you have organizations come in and they say, this is what we're offering, this is the time we're offering it, and this is what we're serving you. This is not that. So what we hear from community about what they want, what their needs are, is the consideration for how the hours will be structured and the days. So it's definitely going to come from you all. Neither Louis nor I or anyone else in isolation will
Nope.
make that determination. It's going to come from the community.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
That's
Even the
really-
center hours, the community members are going to decide when is a convenient time for us to operate. Is it in the morning? Is it late evening?
That's really encouraging to hear. And then I guess just one final point, and you touched on this, Monica, around recognizing the ecosystem of other organizations in the community already and what they're offering and how the FEC can complement some of that. And so just on that point, just wondering about, has there been any thought around food pantries? That's also another really big thing that comes up in terms of, needs of our community. And later on this evening, well, in a few minutes, we're going to start talking about, capital and budget expenses and budget priorities. And usually access to food pantries is pretty high up there. So yeah, I just wanted to offer that as well as a suggestion.
I love that. Thank you.
For sure.
We
Yes.
know about food insecurity too much in this time for too many people. And that is definitely something that I can say for certain. We will probably have our own built out space for that offering, but also connecting with others, as you've mentioned. That's a big item with the FECs that are being built, is how to connect with stakeholder organizations that are already in the community and collaboratively maybe sometimes fill in little missing spaces that the community has already been in conversation about what they may not have been able to provide in their program. So you kind of like draw those bridges and fill in those spaces and those gaps so that everyone feels like they're being served.
Thank you.
Yes, and regarding to the food pantries, we were at the George Washington campus last week. This week, I'm sorry. But last week they brought up that they were having difficulties. Some of the parents, they prefer a food voucher instead of going and picking up the food, because sometimes they don't have time, they're working. So one thing that people, and the food pantry there is amazing.
Ginormous.
It's genuine. It was on point. I never seen anything like that. What I witnessed there, you know, it was great. But what I'm trying, my point is that they brought up to us if we can start a food voucher program for those parents and families that might not be able to uh pick up the food at certain times, and food restrictions. So if we give them a food voucher, they can go to supermarket and shop at any time, and they know what they like and what they don't like. So that's something that we're taking into consideration.
Yeah, no,
And we
keep us
can
posted.
we can start a partnership with local supermarkets as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, okay. Over to you. Oh, you're muted.
All right. Okay. So this is how you can get involved. Please follow us on social media. That way, you get the last updates, and our um upcoming events will always post it there. And if you need support from our family advocate, Monica Harris, you can call her at 212-470-2021, or you can email her at mharris@myfamilycenter.org. Also, you can visit our website, www.myfamilycenter.org, and you can sign up to get notifications on events. Once we're open, we're going to have a newsletter when we will also be sharing updates. And sure. And if you have any, thank you so much, Monica. Thank you for bringing that up. If you know any organizations that might want to partner with us, you can reach out to me. My email is lcruz@myfamilycenter.org, or you can call me at 929-241-4979. Any community events, any potential partnerships, please feel free to share with me.
Luis, may you please?
And our last our last slide is about our naming campaign. We need your help to name our center, and we are for the community, by the community, and with the community. So our center will be named by our community members. The winner will have the chance to win $1,000 if your name gets chosen by the community. The community, after we finish our naming campaign, we will start in the voting process where the community is going to vote for the name that they feel that represent the community, or that will fit best. So yeah, you can scan this QR code. We also have a template, a physical template for those community members that might not know how to manage the QR code. And so yeah, we have shared the flyer with CV12, so they can share it with the community. We're being also promoting our naming campaign on community events as well.
Make a suggestion.
So
Maybe also electronically send them the form for the community to fill out, and they can distribute it
Absolutely. Thank you, Monica. That's a good suggestion. We will also send you the physical application through email. That way you can print it out. And if anyone that wants to submit their names, you can leave it at the CV12's office and we can pick it up as well.
Great.
Thank you for your attention. Anika, if you would like to add something.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for all the work that you do. It's meaningful and sometimes can be thankless. I see you and I appreciate your energy, your time and efforts, and thank you for allowing us to present today.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. And really looking forward to the opening. Keep us posted so that we can make sure that, you know, either kind of members of the community board are there and you can kind of share it as a kind of community event. And looking forward to kind of remaining engaged throughout this process with you all. Thank you.
You're worthy and welcome. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. And do send, if you are able to send the slides, that would be helpful. So that way we can kind of have access to it and then kind of share with, you know, community partners as well, if that's all right.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So now we will move on to I don't see any electeds or other members. I don't see any electeds online, and I also didn't receive notice from them, so I don't think any of them are here this evening. Hopefully next month. I do want to check though, because I do know that we have members in the public on the Zoom. Are you representing a community-based organization or just a member of the public? And you can either kind of put in the chat or raise your hand. Just want to make sure that we provide space for you as well. Maybe the person stepped away. All right. We'll come back to the person later. Okay, so we'll now then move to the community board budget request. Let me just give me a second to share my screen. Sorry, I'm just like. While I pull this up, did everyone have a chance to take a look at the documents? So for the public, this is in kind of the wider, oops, wrong thing, here we go. The wider community. Sorry, I'm just making myself focus so I can share my screen. So there's the annual budget and expense process. So the way it works is community boards. So all of us, this is happening across the city, not just Community Board 12. Usually in September and October, they meet to put forward what you'll see here as both expense items and then capital items. You'll see them here printed in the office. For community members or committee members that are online, these were also emailed to you. For members of the public, we'll see if we can drop some links in the chat so that you can also follow along, but I'll also be sharing my screen as well so that you can see. And so what ends up happening is all committees of all the community boards put forward a set of capital budget items and expense budget items. So these are things that we as a committee deem to be important in terms of funding priorities. Now, usually kind of the big question is, well, what's the difference between capital and expense? Capital usually tends to be things like construction related items. So for example, building a new school or building, housing, those types of things. And then capital items, and you'll see some examples here, Can be things like increase funds to food pantry, so more like programmatic, those types of things. And so what we will do this evening is two things. One is to review what we as a committee submitted last year. It isn't, again, in those documents, and I've kind of pulled it into an Excel spreadsheet for kind of a little bit easier to review. What we will then do is go through the register of community board budget requests. So what happens is after this is submitted from our committee, the process then goes to the entire community board. So all the committees are putting these forward. And so what will happen later this month is we'll receive an entire list, and all community members of the community board need to rank it. And so ultimately it produces kind of this long list of capital budget items and expense items. Based off of these two lists, the staff here, they produce kind of a community needs assessment. And they kind of say, okay, based on this is what community board members have ranked. Based off of this, these is what we think are the most important needs for Community Board 12. And that can range from things on aging, health and environment, housing, so on and so forth. That then ultimately gets submitted to the Office of Management and Budget. And they then kind of go to the different agencies and say, hey, Community Board 12, this is what they submitted. What is your official agency response? And so they then produce this really long document where they kind of provide a tracking code. They'll put here what the information is, or the request that we have put forward. And there's usually a column that talks about, the comment or the response from the respective agency. Usually in some cases, they'll say this is already funded within kind of, the agency's department budget or whatever the case may be. In other instances, they'll say we need more information, or, please explain what you're trying to ask for. I think some of the others we've seen, sorry, this is out of the scope of the agency. Like they're kind of varying responses. One of the things that we were trying to do, I think we started, but we didn't have a chance to finish, was actually follow up with the agencies and say, okay, this is what we've submitted. This is your response. Can you provide more information? Actually have conversations with them around why they responded the way they did. It is a little bit of a tedious task, but I think a very important one to do. I'll pause there because that was a lot of information, and just see if anyone has kind of questions on the process first.
What's the timeline on this process?
Yep. Quick.
It sounds that way.
Yes, it is quick. So we have to, as a community, so the committee, we will identify items today, both capital and expense, and I'll share my screen in a moment. We will then, as a committee, have probably a week or so, or week and a half to rank it. I then have to give the rankings of the committee to staff. Once they have that ahead of the general meeting, or I think, I'm trying to figure out how we've decided this. I think at the general meeting, there'll actually kind of be a really long, they'll share their screen, they'll probably print it out, and committees will talk a little bit about why they voted the way they did, or kind of the discussions. The community board will then, they normally give us about a week or so, is it? Or they give yeah, like a survey monkey, and it's usually like, you need to do this in a week, or a couple of days, and everyone kind of goes off and ranks it. And then that then again informs kind of Ebenezer's report that he then has to submit on behalf of the community board. Yeah. And then when do we usually get the response? So this was produced usually, so usually produced like June or July from OMB, this report. And so what we're funding here, what we're trying to put forward would be for July 2025 to June 2026. That's kind of the funding cycle for the city. Checking online to see if there are any questions. Just checking, sorry, I'm facing this way, but I want to make sure, sorry about that, no worries. Our members online can hear, or if you have any questions on the process. No, all good? Great. Any other questions? No? Okay. So what I will do now, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me one moment. How does it, to close this here? I'm managing 2 computers, so bear with me if I'm little bit. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit small. I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bit larger. Okay. Yes, yes, I hear you. You are in unfortunately good company. My eyes are closing too. I'm tired. So before we kind of look at this, I do just kind of want to bring your attention to these 2 sheets. So we can start maybe with I always think it's easier to start with the capital because usually the capital is a little bit easier. Easier in the sense that I think to get a sense of kind of what we voted on. So you'll see here, this is what Community Board 12, how they voted on everything. Usually for our committee, we're usually right up there in the top because of the nature of the work that we're doing and then because of the honest needs of our community. So things like, as I mentioned earlier, we need more affordable housing. We need, food pantries, building and code inspectors to make sure that, our apartments are, up to code, all of those types of things. So you'll see here, I'm looking at the capital one right now. These are the ones that were put forward last year. And so the first one here, just looking at it's number 7, it's kind of provide funding for the construction of 100% long-term affordable housing units to nonprofits, community land trusts, land banks, so on. And
Chair,
then,
I have a quick question.
yes,
Sorry, are you looking at the one that is what the committee ranked as priorities or the one
the
that
board.
is the full board? Okay, thank you.
Yep. No. Thank you for asking. Apologies. So I'm looking at, so it's not what I have on here, but I'm showing it on here because these are the ones that we ultimately submitted. So they
Got
are on this sheet, but for members of the public, at least you could kind of see it on there. Sure, not a problem.
And just some clarification, the numbers, the ranking numbers on the left were the ranking from the board, the general board?
No, these were the rankings from our.
From the top to the bottom.
Yes, so 2 rankings. I'm looking at the long sheet, the one that was for all items for across the entire community board. These are the rankings for the community board. The rankings on the spreadsheet here, these are the ones for our committee. This is what our committee decided last year.
Which would be these numbers here.
Yes, or no, hold on. No, it's not matching up. Hold on, wait. Good eye. I'm not sure, actually. Why is this number? Hold on. Provide funding to construct for affordable. Here, have 5. This is the capital. I'm looking at capital. Allocate. No, it is it. Yeah, that is it. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Yes, that is right. Yep.
And then the board's ranking according to all the committees is the far right column.
Correct. Exactly. I'm just going to remove these on here anyway because these don't matter anyway. This is from last year, and I'm just showing it for the purposes of. And these are the ones that when we. Okay, there it is. Okay, so in terms of what needs to happen this evening, because I do want to be mindful of the time. It's already 8:20 or 8:18, and there's a little bit to discuss, but very important things. Is to go through this report here and identify what were the actual responses from OMB. And it can be a process. So if for those of you who are or have laptops, that'd be great. Log on. Let me share this. I believe I've shared this with everyone. I'm going to share the link now. just gonna, hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a moment. Just so that way I'm not sharing everyone's personal email. Zoom. So just give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so everyone should get access to the document in a moment. I think the first step is for us to take note of what were the responses from last year from OMB. So either, there's only one copy of this unfortunately here, but for those of you who do have computers, I did send this online as well. And it's the document titled Register of Community Board Budget Request. And so we'll need to kind of go through each of these, make a quick note of what the response was, and then as a committee this evening, decide what is it we would like to put forward. We're not ranking tonight. That's something that everyone can do on their own time, but we do need to agree what we're putting on the list for both expense and capital items. And then again, we'll use the spreadsheet. I've listed everyone's names. We'll give everyone a couple of days to do it. You go in on your own time and rank it as you feel is appropriate. Is that okay with everyone in terms of the process? Okay, awesome. So, and just to note, there's 2 tabs on this spreadsheet as well. Sorry, let me share my screen again. Just realized I forgot to share it again. There are 2 tabs. Oops. So there's tab for October 2023, again, what was done last year, and then what we'll decide for October 2024, and you'll see our updated names on here for October 2024. In the past, we generally have picked or stayed around the same items because we continue to feel like these are needs in our community. And so in most instances, a lot of them end up remaining the same, but what I would recommend, and was something that we discussed, was around ensuring that the wording of it is appropriate so that we won't get responses from OMB saying, please explain more, or, this is already being funded and things of that nature. So with that, we can go ahead and we're looking at the first tab, October 2023, looking at tracking ID. So the first item that was submitted, increased funding for free legal representation in housing court and increased eligibility criteria for receiving services to 300% from 200% of the federal poverty level under the Right to Counsel program. And the tracking ID for this one is 3112 or 3122-02402E. So I'm highlighting this one here in yellow.
And Chair, it's number 4 in the response.
It's number 4 in the response. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Priority 4?
Yes, it says expense budget, priorities and requests.
I was looking at capital budget. Sorry. The way they have it in here, it looks like the
It's on page 20.
Yep. Yep, I see it here. Exactly. Perfect. And so it says here, OMB supports the agency's position as follows. HPD does not administer this program. And so they here have the responsible agency as HRA, the Human Resources Administration. What are your thoughts? Do we keep it? I'm just gonna. Awesome. Thank you for whoever's copying that in. Anyone has thoughts on that?
I do feel strongly about that. I think it makes a big difference for families, and I know that they're really in need of funding. So I'm a big supporter of that.
Okay.
And it's something that can make a difference fast, right? Like building housing is obviously like the base need, but that takes years and years and years. Whereas like a family can get help quickly, right, to stay in their homes through that initiative.
Yes. I agree.
Are they saying that HRA is the responsible party, the responsible agency? Or-
That's what it's listed here, and that's what I'm unclear about, honestly. I don't know. This is honestly like I'm not sure how this goes about. I think the other thing to keep in mind is, then we also have a lot of nonprofit organizations like Legal Aid Society, several others that also offer pro bono legal representation in housing court. But like you said, we need more. And one of the things that we always hear from them is we don't have enough people to help support community members in housing court. So unless there's any objections, I'm keen to just copy it and put it on as an item for expense for October 2024. Yep, okay.
Chair,
other-
is there
Oh.
a place where we could add a note about like how we can find out what their response was?
Exactly. So great minds think alike.
Oh,
So that's
sorry.
what I was gonna say. So the thing is, I mean, it's a quick turnaround, but we can quickly reach out to the agency because there is like at the beginning of this document, there's a whole list of actual the agency contacts. We can literally go to them and say, for tracking ID number, this, and this, can you please explain what you mean by this? Who's responsible for this? And we have a little bit of time. When I say a little bit, it's a little bit since the general meeting is like, a week and a half. If we need to tweak the language so that it's clearer to say, we need this is who should be responsible for it, then we can do that. But it would certainly require kind of everyone's involvement for support because it is a hefty task. So all of that to say is what we decide tonight is not like officially everything. There is a little bit of space to do the follow-up, ask questions, so that way when we go to the general meeting, we have a little bit more to kind of provide, so to speak.
At the point of clarification,
Mhm.
we're going through what was submitted for 2024,
Correct.
which is this list here,
Yes, the expense
Yes.
items.
the comments from the agency from here,
Exactly. Yes.
and
Mhm.
then prioritizing what's going to be submitted for 2025.
So it's for 2026. So the way the years work is July 2025 to June 2026, but they call it 2026. Confuses me too all the time. Like, wait, hold on. So yes, we're not ranking. We're just making a list right now because then each member you'll see here on the screen. I've listed the names of the committee members.
You're so efficient.
Copy and paste. What we'll need to do. So right now, what's listed here, this is just from last year. So as we discuss, obviously things will be changed, we'll delete, we'll add, so on and so forth. For tonight, all we are doing is agreeing what expense items and what capital items. And then we'll do that follow-up as Indiana mentioned, and we'll give everyone, a couple of days to go and we'll kind of just rank them kind of 1 to 10 or whatever the case may be. And then that's the list that I need to provide to the staff. But it sounds like we're all in agreement to keep the funding for legal representation pending clarification from the respective agency. Is that right? Okay, so I'm just gonna put a note here. What I'll do is I'll add a column. Just notes. Great, thank you. So then moving on to the second one, we listed here, provide more operational funding focused on expanding staffing for the home-based program in Community District 12 and adequate housing to prevent individuals and families at imminent risk for entering the New York City shelter system. Let's see what they've responded. And again, we're still looking at the expense priorities. Let's see.
It's on page 24,
Yeah, I know you were on it.
number 17. I contribute where I can.
I'm like, wait, somebody knows. Yeah, exactly. I have like all these papers, all like which papers? Thank you. Okay, so here it says, OMB supports the agency's position as follows. Homelessness prevention is one of the agency's priorities. Funds have been allocated in the budget for these services. Great. From my perspective, I think we should keep it on there because we still have a big homelessness problem. But for me, they're saying that this is funded from the agency. I'd love to invite them to say, can you tell us more? What exactly are your efforts? What exactly are you doing? That would be my perspective, but welcome the thoughts of others. If we want to keep this, we want to tweak it. Open for discussion.
I think we should invite them to speak.
Right, and say what's going on
Yeah.
with this, tell us more. So here they put, yep, thank you. That's you, Renee, right? But thank you. I appreciate that. Any thoughts? I was keep an eye on the chat as well in case. I don't see anything in the chat. No, okay, so it sounds like we're in agreement to keep it. Okay. Okay, good. Are we okay with the wording?
Change it so they can't say, well, we're already doing this. Maybe we could state it in a way where they have to tell us exactly how much they're allocating or
Mhm.
How much
how
and
they're
where?
doing it, yeah.
We
I
had
think
a similar discussion in the land use committee yesterday. And one of that was kind of like a discussion that we had. Is it like helpful to put an exact amount versus just saying increase or double? We didn't end up putting an exact amount because it was just like so vague. We had no point of reference of how much money was spent versus how much we would want. But I think that we just infused words throughout the entire statement that was like increase, like everywhere we could, like increase and expand and support. And so that was how we tackled that for whatever it's worth in the other committee.
That's really helpful context. And I know that was also a discussion that we had at the executive committee meeting for September, where it was exactly that. Where should we be more specific? Where, and then what does that look like so that we can actually get the responses that we need from the city agencies. So with that, I mean, do you want to put like provide increased operational funding focused on expanding staffing? Are you all okay with that slight change, but important change? Okay, so I'm just gonna put that here. And I'm just going to just bold that so I know what it is that I'll put it in red, so I know what it is that we changed from last year, so we have it. So just put some more. Okay. Great, thank you. Just keep an eye on the chat as well. So moving on to the next one, provide ongoing funding to ensure that secure NYCHA, I don't know what happened there. That secure NYCHA building entrances, stairwells, and apartment doors that are self-closing and self-locking. I think if I recall, sorry?
I was just gonna say it's priority 22, and that's on page 25.
Awesome, thank you. This, if I recall, this came out of, you all may recall the unfortunate fire that happened in the Bronx about, 2 years ago now, I think. I think it was like in January. And a lot of the things were like, there were no self-closing doors and like the building, had like, faulty fire alarms and all these types of things. And one of the big issues that we have here, I don't think it's just NYCHA, I think it's all of our buildings, honestly. One, they're a lot older. A lot of them are not up to code. we're entering kind of the, the winter season, and so people don't have heat and people start using their ovens and, unsafe methods to stay warm. We unfortunately have experienced a lot of fires in our community. So just looking at the response here, they have. And then here, I don't know why the request is listed as install security cameras or make other safety upgrades. So the explanation is what we put there, but the response is approval of this request depends on sufficient federal state funds, because it is obviously a state agency. But just wanting to see, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. On this one here.
I think if we believe that they're right, that it depends on state and federal funding, that our efforts then are better spent elsewhere, right? Like if they, I don't know if they have like, if we pitch that priority repeatedly, but if they're constantly just like saying, oh, that's not us, that's them, then maybe we should focus our advocacy on another issue. But I'm fine certainly including it, but that's kind of my perspective.
No, I hear you. What do others think?
Do we know if they moved on this issue?
Hi, Tanisha.
I'm sorry, I'm here, but I'm in Houston, honey. There's a lot of things going on. I'm trying my best here, Chair.
All good. I know you're at a conference. Thank you for joining us. So that's my point, that we did not do our sufficient due diligence to follow up. And I don't think it's just our committee. I think it's across the board, unfortunately. And so let me see if I can pull up what they submitted or what the response was last year, because this does look like a submission that we've done in the past. So just give me 1 second. I need to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to try and look it up. But while I do that, if, helpful to hear thoughts just so we can keep the conversation going. If anyone has thoughts on this item.
Well, if I could jump in here.
Please.
I mean, there was a mention of, if there was federal funds, and part of the problem has been that the federal government hasn't been funding NYCHA in the levels that they should have been funding us. So it's always going to be that answer. If you're asking me. I mean,
no, thank you, Marshall. And maybe it's that point where maybe that's where we need to be a bit more explicit and say, exactly that, I'm just trying to find, I see the one for community board. I'm searching the response from last year right now is what I'm doing. Thoughts from others in response to Marshall's point? No? Okay. I'm still looking. Okay, I need to keep looking. My suggestion is for us, I'm just trying to be mindful of the time. My suggestion is for us to keep it, follow up. I'm just going to put this here, unless anyone kind of says no. But my suggestion is let's keep it. I'd rather keep it and also at least check in the kind of week and a half that we have and see at least if we get a response to say, look, we've been submitting this. This is the response that we always get, and raise the point that Marshall has said. Who then would be the appropriate agency for us to put this? Or what is your recommendation in terms of the wording for this to be included or for the city to provide funding for this? Because we recognize that there's a gap there. Does that sound sensible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Okay. Great. Okay. Does someone want to go ahead and start looking at the next one? which is increased funding for more HPD housing code and Department of Building Code inspectors.
I think it's number 12 on page 22.
Oh, okay.
And there's something very similar on page 23, number 16, which is about noise complaints. But that's not on our spreadsheet, but just to let you know that like the same explanation is used in both of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, I see here. So this is the increased funding for the housing, for the code inspectors. Says here, the agency has stated that they will try to accommodate this request with existing resources. OMB supports this. Great, but they always have, at least one of the things that I've always heard when we've had them here, that they don't have sufficient inspectors.
Mhm.
What I want to know is whether it's a funding issue or maybe they're just not, you know, it's a hiring issue, that they're not able to retain like sufficient, like I've seen like their hiring flyers. I don't know. I've seen them kind of go around. And so I don't know if it's, again, they're not getting sufficient people applying for these roles to meet the demand of these inspectors. And so usually what will happen is if someone, like, just explain how they work in case you're not familiar with them. If someone has a complaint in their building, and you call 311, for example, and you file a complaint, depending on the severity of it, what kind of a class violation it is, they will send someone out to your home. And I had an incident where that happened a couple of years ago where they had to have someone come out to my home and inspect, and you know, the landlord had to make repairs to our apartment because there were issues with it.
I think this is hard to determine because we don't have a number to work with, like, oh, try to accommodate this request. Well, what was the number of building inspectors,
Mhm.
throughout the last 12 months?
Yeah,
Yep.
but now, if I can just jump in, I don't want to besmirch people so much, but I mean, maybe there's a corruption issue.
Oh, no. In this city?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marshall.
I have to agree with my committee member. Yes. I'm just saying, Cher, when we going to talk about that? When we going to talk about, because we depend on these people to be the leaders of our administration. And with the way that things are right now, how are we supposed to get answers to these very, very, very important questions?
I do not have, no, I hear you. I think we're all aware of the political environment we're in and the things that are happening. And unfortunately, these things have, I think, for many, eroded trust in our city agencies.
Mhm.
I don't have the answer. I think that's a very big question for one person. I have my personal thoughts and I'll kind of keep those to myself. But I do think it's in spaces like these where hopefully we aim to create where people can have their voices heard. And even though, with everything happening, it's okay, there are these processes and sometimes they're a little bit gray and nebulous and a little bit frustrating, like hearing some of these responses. But that's where we as a committee really need to push and say, okay, we need to hold these agencies accountable. Because ultimately this is your responsibility, right? Our money is going towards you. We're paying city taxes, which are like ridiculous. These are things that you should be doing. You need to be responsive. So that would be kind of.
Wouldn't it be ideal if during the summer months when there are no meetings, we address the accountability of these
So the
recommendations?
So a couple things. So we started doing some of that, and there were. Oops, sorry, I'm like showing my inbox. Forgot I was sharing my screen. We started doing some of this, and we did get some responses back. I remember Jay was working on it. I think it's an effort that requires the entire committee rather than just one person, because it is a big lift. And so there's obviously like a quick turnaround for this to happen right now. But yes, I think we really need to push and be a bit more kind of,
Be more proactive,
yeah.
During downtime.
Well, the summer months, this community board is closed. So not that it's closed, but the community board doesn't meet as a body.
Right, but
So-
if we get assigned to follow up on a certain item in June during the last meeting, then we have July and August to work on it and report back to the committee in September.
And slightly, there's open meetings law, which you need to be careful with. So that's the thing as well. Yeah. But yes, I hear you. And so that's why we had that discussion, if you recall, last month around what are the things that everyone wants to do. I think a few have responded on some of those items. So yeah, I hear you. Those are all really good points. Okay, so what was decided on this HPD code inspectors? Do we want to keep it? Again, the response was the agency has stated it will try to accommodate this request with existing resources. OMB supports this.
We don't know what the existing resources are.
That's exactly. That's a whole nother issue as well. Okay, we can come back to this one. That's fine. I think it's important. Oh, Marshall, were you speaking?
Yeah, well, let me just say, I think we need to keep it. I think it's important. I mean, as you reminded me of the fire in I guess in the Bronx, I'm thinking, wasn't there a fire in like the 140s or something like that? In the last 9 months or something or so. But it's still the idea that most of our housing, it's pre-war, it's the wiring is shot, people are piggybacking on their
Electrical cords.
on their strip on their strip
Power, yeah, the extension cord.
and that's what's part of the problem as far as these fires, and we're going to lose lives with these fires. So I say keep it.
Yeah, okay. I don't hear anyone saying don't keep it. I think the question is more so we need more information is what I'm hearing. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to need more info. Okay. Increased funding. So moving on to the next one, increased funding for supportive housing for LGBTQ plus youth.
Page 26, priority 26.
Okay, yep. And so again, very
number is that one?
Sure. This is, so it's I'm using it off of here. Because over here I was getting confused. It's this one right here. So this is the request for supportive housing for LGBT plus Q plus youth. Okay. And the response here is the agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources. OMB supports the agency's position. Just a question though, Michelle, question for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this register and they've included here a budget line and a project ID. And I know that at one point, yeah, and at one point you're a bit more familiar with some of these than I am.
Line, project ID. Those are not our budget, like codes. They may be the budget codes for.
Agency. Yeah, so I guess my question is, it sounds like they already have something there.
Yeah, I think
or
we
it's
have
already
to get their-
established.
Yeah, get their information about this.
Mhm.
To see, but this is not our, like, the same as what we use when we
Yeah.
do like the, the office,
Mhm.
the community board budget.
Yeah, no, I didn't figure that, but I figured if I saw that, then probably that's HPD's budget, that they already have
Yeah,
like
I think that's what it is.
identified funding for this.
Yeah, they're saying it's out
encouraging.
of that, it's out of that line item.
Within HPD.
Mhm.
Okay. That's helpful. Any thoughts? I know this item as well, we've also used in the past. I will say just one other thing as you're thinking about this, one of the recommendations that came out of the executive committee meeting was to shorten our list and not have like 20 expense items and 20 capital items.
Yeah.
And try to be as where possible, as strategic as possible in terms of what our requests are. And it's not saying that these other issues aren't important, but I think because of the nature of all of these different asks, I think, being quite focused on what it is that we say, these are like the 4 issues. If we had to pick 4, these are the 4. If we had to pick, so just something to keep in the back of your minds as well. Again, we also don't have to keep everything on here. We can also add a new thing. So just keeping that in the back of your minds. Any, I guess, thoughts from that on this item? Increased funding for supportive housing for LGBTQ plus youth.
We can remove it. You don't feel strongly about it.
And I know that the other thing obviously is that we'll also get stuff from other committees as well. And so there will be a conversation that needs to happen with relevant committees to say, okay, hey, our budget, our items are similar, can we combine? And that kind of conversation as well. I will say it looks like here, just so you know, health and environment last year, one of their items was, let's see, increase HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment services and LGBTQ services in our community. I know the first half is specific to kind of treatment and medical support, but I wonder if we can add within that, within that services portion, housing or, supportive housing or something like an add-on.
I would support that.
Others? Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna add it here, and then what I'll do is I'm going to email Steve, because they're meeting now. To see if they would accept that. Okay. So I'm gonna then cross this out here. Okay. And I'm just gonna put a note adding to health and environment. Okay. Next, increased tenant support special specific to CB12.
Chair, I have a question about that one.
Please.
I feel like we have really great organizations that are doing that work in our district. When we put this down, is it like we're requesting that money go to like city paid, like city staff doing this work? Or is it like we want the agency to fund community groups doing this work? Can we distinguish that or no? Because if it's for community groups, then I would very much support it. But if we're saying like the city should spend more money doing this, I don't know like how much more money they can spend. It still won't be as effective as a community group, I think.
That's a really good question. My assumption, and I'll be quite clear that it's an assumption, and again, this is something that we'll probably need to get some clarity from the staff and OMB, is that this is the money that goes to the agency, Now, how the agency then decides to do it, because obviously we also know that agencies subcontract and they provide grants to community partners to do some of this work. Not in all instances, but some of them do. But I wouldn't know kind of what the breakdown is, or again, if we can specify, increased Senate support special specific to CB12 for community organizations. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
would support that.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Would you happen to know, Michelle, or have a thought on that?
Go ahead.
The when we're putting these requests, if the funding, so we know the funding is for the city agencies, because ultimately it's for them. But is there a component within that where, let's say, the agency could then subcontract? Let's say they say, okay, we received this money from the city budget to increase Senate support specialists. We're going to, with that money, subcontract to a community-based organization to help us out with something.
Oh,
That I don't know.
I don't know about the agencies, but
Yeah.
I know like the council members, they have like, you know about this, right? They have
Mhm.
like a pot of money that
They
they'll
do.
give to certain,
Mhm.
and they give us some money too,
Yeah.
actually. Like some of our funding comes from our, city.
You don't believe it. I did not believe it until I had to walk down that hill. I ain't never been that fucked up on gummies before. Oh.
Sorry, I just muted you. There's a lot of background noise. That's okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that the council members have some
Yeah.
ability to give that money,
They have like
that their discretionary
yeah.
funding to give to, and they do give to a lot of community organizations.
Okay.
I don't know if this would be the right place to ask for that money.
Okay.
I'm just not sure, because I feel
Yeah.
like this goes more towards the agency
agencies.
than the city council.
Okay.
But at the same time, why not? Like, it could inform what the city council members like focus on for their discretionary spending.
But
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I would maybe take the devil's advocate position on that. I think that yes, the city council has their money, but the city agencies also allocate funding for initiatives and to providers. So I think it still makes sense to include that in our ask.
It sounds to me that that's like just a wider question, not just for this item, to figure out exactly that. So let me put that as a larger kind of takeaway note to find out, when there is funding, and I would imagine it's probably maybe it's at the agency's discretion, because I would imagine not all of it is for for them to kind of sub-grant out.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
I think then my final thought on this would be if we're trying to keep the number of issues lower, I would be more inclined to focus on things like the attorneys in housing court and the expanding the home-based program, because I feel like if you've got a limited pot of money, it's good to do know your rights, but that can only get you so far. And whereas like the attorney can really provide individualized support. So if as like a committee we're prioritizing things, that would be where my support would go.
Fair point. Just want to remind us that we also focus on human services side, which is always the discussion that we have. So we do want to make sure that it's also reflective, or at least some of those items include that as well. One thing so we have tenant support specialists, and then we also have funds kind of to inform tenants of their rights on there. So those are two. From my perspective, I don't think we need both.
And
Again,
Sharon, the report, it looks like those two were combined. Page 24, priority 19.
Oh, they did combine. Yes, they did. And the response was, OMB supports the agency's position as follows. The agency will accommodate the issue within existing resources. This is HPD. and the request to provide, expand, or enhance tenant protection programs. So they've combined it. My recommendation is we combine it into one as well. I think it's important to have, but we shouldn't be putting two things. Does that sound okay? Okay, so make a note and. And I think with all of them, which is coming to be a thread out of this conversation, let's actually ask for more information. So I think if you all could, within the next day or so, just think about any specific questions you have. I'll have like some, quite open questions around, well, how much and, can the agency come at a future date to provide an update, those types of things. But if you have specific questions that you think will be key for you to decide how you vote or rank, let me know so that I can also ask. Because ideally we want to get these emails out like ASAP. If there's phone numbers, maybe just start calling people. It's like, we know we need it. Oh, there are phone numbers. Great. Just to get a response. Okay. It is 8:59. I do want us to finish by 9:30. I think we can, being ambitious. We have 3 more on the expenses and then a couple on the capital. Does that sound okay if we can aim to trying to finish by 9:30?
Yep.
Okay. Increase funds to food pantries. Has anyone seen this one in the document?
Yes, it's page 21, priority 6.
OMB supports the agency's position as follows. HRA, which is the Human Resources Administration, continues to maintain funding for EFAP. During the COVID pandemic, funds have been added to the budget to purchase additional food. Now, my understanding is that the COVID pandemic funds have ended. We no longer have access to that. And that was a big issue for a lot of the pantries. Food insecurity is still a really big issue here. I propose we keep it. Open to thoughts, comments.
Yeah. I actually run a food pantry and the money is plentiful. I mean, they're almost like throwing money at us.
Okay.
We get a lot of grants.
Yeah.
Last quarter I couldn't spend so much. It was, and they want you to spend it all. You have to spend it all in a certain amount of time. So I haven't heard of different workshops, and I haven't heard anybody complain that they don't have enough funds. So if this is something that we're going to prioritize low, then I think it would be okay. I don't think anybody's suffering right now.
Okay. I've heard opposite from other organizations. And I think it also depends which organization too, kind of there's large and small. I wonder if I think we should keep something on here, something about food insecurity. Maybe it's the way we word it.
Yeah. Chair, can you please repeat what the comment was? Because
sure. Rodia, do you want to go ahead and try to repeat that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's just kind of quiet.
I was saying I run a food pantry and the money is coming in very steady. We're getting a lot of grants. It's almost, we're in a race to spend all the money by the allotted time.
Gotcha.
Other kind of I'm in like a lot of groups and workshops and things like that, and I haven't heard anybody say, we're scrambling.
Got it. Thank you.
That's a helpful perspective. And so what I mentioned to Rodia is that I think it also depends on the size of the organization, because you have different types of food pantries. I do think we should capture something on here regarding food insecurity. Maybe it's a different wording. I did like the suggestion that Lewis from the FAC was talking about, moving away from like food pantry, maybe like food vouchers, and could that be an option as we think about dignity as it relates to, you know, people who are food insecure. That could be something to think about or consider.
There is a program I just learned about where I think it's a pilot program that was just expanded, and it's called the restaurant. Basically, like they're giving vouchers where you can get hot meals, but it's only to like everybody in the household needs to be a senior and meet like certain capacities. So if we wanted to like pinpoint a program or a group, that might be one of them.
If you can drop the name of it in the chat, that'd be helpful.
Okay, I will do that right now.
There was also there was something I came across recently. I'm trying to put my phone at, but I guess just on that point, Radia, if you were to kind of put something, is there something in particular that you feel like food pantries need? If kind of from what you're seeing and experiencing, it's not cash, what is it? And is this something that this process can help, you know, support or advocate for?
Because now they're really pushing access to like fresh food. Fresh, you know, we get a lot of fresh veggies, all of that. If you don't have access to it, the bank will get us access to it. Some organizations might not have. One complaint I'm hearing is the equipment. A lot of the smaller pantries don't have good refrigeration or storage, or because the funds only cover the food, so they may need like pallets and chefs and shelves and things like that.
Okay.
And that's out of pocket. So maybe like operation costs.
So running the food pantry.
That might be something.
Okay. Something in the chat too. Just want to see. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Adiana. I was looking to see something in the chat. Thanks for that. Okay.
What's the name of that program?
The restaurant meals program. And it's run out of the state, but I think they partner with the city as well.
And they can use their SNAP benefits using the EBT cards. It's kind of for okay.
And if they don't partner with the city, I know that some of the newly, like recently arrived migrants also have a similar program, but
okay. Any thoughts? I'm just looking up this thing here. So I like this, similar to what you're mentioning. There's this new, I don't know how new it is. I know it is new. So it's this new kind of service that the city launched. It's called Money in Your Pocket Guide. And it's kind of like a one-stop shop for city services. I'll send this link around to everyone. And so it's literally like put money in your pocket. And it's this process of like, you can put in, you know, your information, and you can actually figure out what city services you're eligible for. And so I'm looking at it now. There's stuff around kind of, you know, financial empowerment, housing. There's and these are very specific things, and I'll send this around. Things like, you know, NYCHA self-sufficiency program, Housing Connect, veteran exemption, all of these things, stuff on youth, but just quickly going down to the health and food. They have something called Community Food Connection, which is funding to support more than 700 community kitchens and food pantries citywide. Get the Good Stuff is one of the programs. So it's providing a $1 match on SNAP purchases for, as you mentioned, fruits, vegetables, beans, groceries to go. $270 in credits each month to purchase SNAP eligible groceries for delivery or pickup. I think this is really important for, you know, our seniors, people who have limited mobility, things of that nature. Health books, which are actually really cool, that you can actually use them as farmers markets. So these are people who may be eligible for SNAP, and they can use them at farmers markets to purchase fresh fruits and then things of that nature. And of course, SNAP is a big thing as well. So we can still talk about food insecurity. It doesn't have to be food pantries. So just wanting to see.
I would support that.
Okay. Let's see. So let me cross this out. So what do I say? Increase. Do we have and I'll send this. I think there's probably gonna have to be a little bit of work, in between to kind of really settle on this, but increased funding for do we want to pick one in particular, or because I would imagine each one has different responsible agencies. So there's obviously SNAP, the health bucks.
I like the one for the seniors. I feel like seniors are the ones who really have to stretch their money, their paycheck. They, have enough money left at the end of the month to food that they want or the healthy food.
Yeah. Let's see which one was that. With that one, we can check with the aging committee, because I don't know what they put forward in the past. No, they never really put anything on food past. It's mostly around home health aides, home care, transportation, access to Wi-Fi for seniors, things of that nature. Okay. So increased funding. I'm just looking at this, and I'll make sure everyone gets this. I thought this was really neat. I just learned about it recently. There's also the Community Food Connection, which is open to anyone regardless of age. And that's not just food pantries, but also hot meals, which I think is really important, particularly when we think about our homeless or unhoused neighbors, that they have access to a hot meal. So I'm going to put the Community Food Connection, and then the here's the one for our seniors. I lost it. It's on here somewhere. The groceries to go. That was the one we talked about. Okay. Okay, we can move on to the next one. The next one is funding.
25.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
No, please and thank you.
Page 25, priority 25.
Okay, page 25, priority 25. This is, funding for programs on home ownership. The response was the agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources. OMB supports the agency's position. My thought process is to remove. The only reason is because if you recall, we voted on a resolution as the community board in May or June. The name is escaping me. It was the carbon. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Fund.
Goodness, the name is escaping me.
For affordable housing.
Yes,
For
exactly.
people to own.
Yes, for ownership.
Yeah, I think we could cite that one.
Maybe it's actually name the project.
Like community pillars something.
Yeah, the name's escaping me. I don't know why.
They made a presentation.
Yep.
Is it like co-ops?
Yeah, yes, they want to build affordable co-ops for people in the community to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up as well.
But we should be specific.
Exactly, and I think that goes to your point, Indiana, where we can be specific around things. Let's do that. Let's see. Okay. State pilot. Homes Now, Homes Generation campaign. I think this is it. Yep. Okay. And so this provides, the Homes Now, Homes for Generations campaign calls for capital investment of $2.5 billion over the next 5 years housing programs that will fund construction and preservation of community-centered affordable homes, and has widespread support. Well, it had widespread support. The campaign exactly, it consists of 2 programs, which is Open Door, which creates, it's focused on preservation and new construction. And then the other one was like the Pillars program.
Neighborhood pillars.
There we go, exactly. Neighborhood Pillars was aimed at getting repairs. The Open Door was aimed at preservation and new construction. But I recall,
We can cite both of them. 'Cause
Yes.
They're existing programs. and
Yep.
They're just not well funded.
exactly. And then I do see here, just remember, part of it would also, one of the things of part of the campaign would be to create 9,000 new home ownership opportunities.
Yeah,
So it's both rental
yeah.
opportunities and home ownership. And we, as a community board, voted to support that.
That sounds
So I think that's a great
Yeah.
suggestion. The Homes Now, Homes Generation campaign.
For generation. Now homes for generation.
Yeah. Homes Now. Homes.
And neighborhood stories,
Well, I think their
It's part of
campaign
it.
is Homes
Mhm.
Now Homes for Generations, but
And
their
within it,
existing
there's-
programs are Neighborhood Pillars and Open Door,
Mm-hmm.
which are 2 different, which we can't remember the difference. One of them is like home ownership, one of them may be rental.
Exactly. But I would imagine we support both. We did as a community board support
Yeah,
both. So I would just
we
put the
should
whole
put both.
thing, exactly.
But I don't know if we should put the campaign because the campaign may be like Carmen De La Rosa's campaign. Do you know what I'm saying? Versus like her campaign is just supporting those 2 existing programs. So.
Just eliminate the word.
So it's not her campaign. It
Oh,
was
it's
a
not
whole, it's a
her.
citywide thing.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, yeah,
Mhm.
we should put that.
But I think you're right. I think helpful to still distinguish and say the support for both of these programs,
Yeah.
the Neighborhood Pillars and the Open Doors.
Yeah.
Perfect. Increase funding. Okay. Oh man, 15 minutes. I'm trying to move. Homes, oh goodness, I can't even spell. Homes for Generations. And I'll just put here
Campaign.
add 2 programs. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll clean this up later. And I think within that, it's good to maybe if we can get an update from Carmen's office
Yeah.
on where that's at.
Yeah.
The next one is page 26, priority 27.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Would you like to read that? Just as
Sure. So the request was workshops for landlords on local law 97. And the response was that the request does not seem to be applicable to the responsible agency. OMB cannot make a determination at this time. And the responsible agency that we had put was Housing Authority. So, but that response is infuriating because if they've identified that we put the wrong agency, then just like call us and tell us. Or
So-
like,
I think that's a conversation maybe we have with
Who's the
Kathy.
agency?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
it's gotta
because we
be the
don't,
office.
yeah, I was gonna say, us as a staff, like, we don't
yeah, for sure.
have an agency, so. Point
So-
well noted. That maybe we
I-
need to check that they have the
I
right.
would say if we're trying to cut down on the items that we put forth, this is one that I would support cutting.
I hear you. I would just want to see if Health and Environment can pick this up. So
Gotcha.
Local Law 97 is around kind of the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Just a really quick blurb. It's one of the most ambitious plans for reducing emissions in the nation. Local Law 97 was included in the Climate Mobilization Act, passed by the City Council in 2019. Some of the things that it covers, it's around reducing the emissions that kind of our buildings produce. So yeah, I think it's important, but I also hear you when we think about everything. It's unfortunately goes
Yeah.
lower down the list, but if
And
we
I
see kind of the impact of our climate and what's happening in Florida,
Yeah.
you know, we need to act urgently.
Chair, and I agree, it's important. The only thing I would say is I think between last year and this year, there
Yeah.
has been more community outreach.
On, yeah,
On local law 97. So I hear your point. I'm just saying there has been some progress on this
yeah, you're right.
in terms of outreach.
You're right. I hear you. That is a fair point. But I also want to, because of their response,
Gotcha.
because it went to housing authority rather than, what would that be, DOB?
Mhm.
Department of Buildings, I would think, probably.
Mm, I don't
Either
know.
DOB or HPD. It's almost as if like they just never even got it.
Yeah,
You know, that's
true.
my thought. I don't
Been
know.
tabled and-
That's what it sounds like. It's been tabled. Maybe I can test with health and environment and see where
Sure.
they're at. And I think again, there's also the question that this clearly was it looks like it wasn't sent to the right agency. Okay.
And you're right, it is Department of Buildings that's doing the info sessions.
Oh, it is DOB? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna leave that for now. That's okay.
Mhm.
Is there anything else we want to add?
Would like 3K funding be within our purview or not?
Probably education. But and it's a really good one.
Yeah, okay.
You can send Domingo. It sounds like they met already, but my understanding is there will still be an opportunity for requests to come in, even if the committee has already met, as long as it's before the general meeting. That's my understanding of this process. And there'll probably be some requests I'll be taking kind of the day of, before the official ranking list goes out for members to vote on. Anything else that you think? And the list is still long. I know we were aiming for like 4 to 5, but it's still long. Oh my gosh. Any points? No? Okay. I recognize it's late, so let's move on to capital. What I will say is have a think. If there's anything that comes up, let me know. And we can make, edits and things of that nature, but it sounds like this is what we're settling on for now, pending, again, that information that we'll do some follow-up on. Okay, moving quickly then to capital items.
Page 2, number 6.
Deanna is on it.
Mhm.
Page 2, number 6. So we're now looking at the capital items. Page 2, number 6. Provide funding to construct affordable, accessible housing for seniors.
And they did the same thing that you noticed last time, where they have a budget line and a project ID.
Yep. Oh, yeah. The adopted budget includes a citywide allocation for this work. Specific locations are determined by the agency.
We have had these bills. We had
That was
one
going to be my thought. The Eliza was one. There's a couple other that are coming up where they are prioritizing senior and accessible housing.
Yeah, there's been a couple.
And so for me, I would recommend we remove it based off of that. Not that we don't think it's important, but and I think there's also just a bit of a follow-up around where some of these locations are then determined. Obviously, it also then depends on what type of building it is. And then if it's like, 100% affordable, if it's mixed use, all of those things. And obviously the space of where it's built.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say about that is that already some of the like mandatory inclusionary housing and like some of the things that developers like the incentives that they get,
Mhm.
a lot of the designations are specific to senior housing.
Yeah,
So
Yep.
I would support removing it as well.
yep, okay. Okay, next one is allocate capital funds to support a planning and development initiative for Washington Heights, whereby city-owned lots and buildings purchased or otherwise acquired by the city in Washington Heights and Inwood are identified and packaged in one or more RFPs dedicated to scatter site infill affordable residential development projects.
It's
I've
page number 2
Uh-huh,
and priority 4.
priority 4. OMB supports the agency's position. Further study by the agency of this request is needed. Um, I feel like a lot has happened in this last year from when this was produced or when this was submitted to now. It feels like just about every vacant bit of Washington Heights and Inwood has been marked for construction. So I'm of the view to remove it. The only reason being is that then the following one talks about the construction of long-term affordable housing units. And I think that captures that bit around, you know, and this one also reads a bit more like land use stuff as well. More, and I don't know what the land use committee has put forward. So that's my recommendation. Others feel comfortable with that?
I agree with you, Chair.
Okay, sounds good. Next item. I think still helpful to follow up with them and kind of get a response, but not for us to rank.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one is the top page 1, priority 1.
Yep, there's the deal. Follow that one. Build more affordable housing. But can we be clear? Let's be. This is the whole thing. What is affordable? Not. I think I'd share this with you, Sonia. We had a presentation from a developer in May or June, and it was affordable housing. And when they said the rates, we're like, whoa, how's that affordable? It's like 25. Yeah. And that was for a studio. And I'm like, what? It's crazy. It was bad. Okay, so the response is further study by the agency of this request is needed. Study is a question.
Frustrating.
Door should be an expense, a capital, right? The open door program is the construction of cooperative and condominium buildings affordable to moderate.
Ooh.
On construction completion, the developer will sell the units to the household. So I think we should move that.
Good suggestion.
Mhm.
To capital.
Yeah. I don't know about the other one. I don't know.
The other one, no, that's a really good point. Neighborhood pillars is, I've just pulled up the resolution again, I have it up here. Hi. You just finished?
Yes.
We're almost done, almost there.
So, can I interrupt?
Yes.
Remember we had a conversation that, OC just brought it up again.
Yep.
About maybe having a joint meeting.
Mhm.
To get a presentation from, something called the Accelerator Program. That
Okay.
deals with enforcement of Local 197.
We were just talking about Local Law 97.
Okay, so I'm gonna see if it's, maybe we can get a speaker, so maybe, maybe in November, December, maybe we
Sure.
start our meeting together to hear what.
To hear that and then separate.
Apart, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Great. Thank you, Steve. I'll be in touch. Thank you. All right. That's a great suggestion. The neighborhood pillars, and that way it captures that bit. And then again, it adds that specificity that we are looking for. And the neighborhood pillars, I'm just trying to remember The neighborhood pillars is the one that focuses on the repairs of the apartments.
Yeah.
So neighborhood pillars we can keep in
I
expense.
think so, yeah.
And then-
Well,
Exactly, and
Yeah.
put open doors in capital. Okay, great. I like that. So are we saying that we'll completely take this out and be specific and just add the open doors program?
or it could, open doors could be another line.
Another item.
too.
Okay, let's put it
Yeah.
as another item for now. And then we can increase funding for open doors program. Generation. Okay, and then I'll just edit it on the other end. Fine. Great suggestion. Thank you for that. Okay, just want to come back then to this one here around following the agency or further study by the agency is needed. I do like, and I think we talked about this, I do like that it focuses specifically on, well, even though the AMI needs some work, that we mentioned that it should be specific to this area. Unfortunately, the AMI is a national thing. I recommend we keep that because that's all we're always going to need more affordable housing.
Yeah, I support that.
So, okay. Next.
Page 4, priority 12.
Okay. Page 4, priority 12. You can go ahead and read it, Indiana. if you wouldn't
Okay.
mind.
No problem. It's provide more housing for at-risk and transitioning individuals and families. And the response was, OMB supports the agency's position as follows. The agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources.
Thank you. Just looking back at the let me see. Goodness.
This is just such a
The
vague.
other thing I will say, Chair, is that the next item that we have is a fund for supportive housing.
Yep.
Construction for LGBTQ youth. And so I have a clarifying question. When we say transitioning individuals, do we mean like transitioning from shelter or like gender transitioning?
From shelter.
Okay, got it.
Yep. But, and then when we say at risk, we're talking about people who, are at risk of losing their homes.
Okay, got it.
We did take out the expense earlier around increased funding for supportive housing. And so that's why I was kind of like, you take out the expense, and if there's a related capital, then you also take that out. But again, I just want to make sure that there's something in here around our LGBTQ youth, even if it doesn't come from us as our committee, is my point. What do you think? Or do we go quite broad and generic, which sometimes helps and other times it's not very helpful because we get responses like these from OMB, and just say kind of, supportive housing for at-risk and transitioning individuals and families. And that could capture a bit of a broader spectrum of types of people.
I support that.
Yeah, okay. And so I'm gonna add that here. It is almost my bedtime. We're almost done. For 9:32, we're almost there, I promise. Okay, great. Next one, additional funding for AEP and PPP programs, preservation and rehabilitation of distressed buildings in CD12. I don't know where.
Page 4, priority 13.
AEP is the alternate enforcement program. So this is the program when you have issues with landlords that just stop caring, never show up, don't do any repairs. those issues. We did actually have a couple cases. I think
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember, Michelle? Oh my gosh.
Their
We, ha-
criminal justice office is helping them. Like, they're
yeah,
getting like a lot of press. and
They-
stuff
a
like that.
lot of
Like,
press
yeah,
and they took the landlord to court
yeah.
as well. The person was like jailed and everything, and it was on the
Scary.
news.
Very scary.
It was so
I think
bad.
I remember seeing that.
It was terrible. And unfortunately, that is the case for a lot of the buildings in our neighborhood because a lot of them are pre-war, and things of that nature.
What was the response?
From
From the,
OMB.
yeah.
Hold on.
The agency will try to accommodate this issue with existing resources. OMB supports the agency's position. Very specific.
Very. We did have them come though at one point. They did present a while ago where we actually had like the head of the team and one other person was actually working on the case with that building. They presented. That was really good to hear what they were doing. I'm for keeping.
Keeping, yeah.
Just,
too. Yeah.
okay. Okay, next one and last one. Provide funding to construct affordable, accessible housing for people with disabilities.
So it's page 3, priority 8.
Okay.
And what can I say? I'm all in.
I think it's one we need to keep. Because a lot of our buildings are not accessible.
It was so hard to find housing and stay uptown. There were like 2 buildings.
Crazy. That's crazy. That's unacceptable.
If they're not like. Because we have older buildings, I would say there's no
Yeah.
code.
I think, yeah, so I think that's the thing with a lot of our buildings, because there's like, I know the case, for instance, with like electrical outlets. I don't recall the year, but if they're pre-war or after, built before a certain year, the landlords don't have to put in new electrical outlets for them. It's like,
And other things like the doors in the back, I used to live on a 1st floor apartment before I became a wheelchair user, but there's like big steps to get into the building. But even little things, like once I was in the building, I could fit through my front door and my bedroom door, but not the bathroom door because there was like a very small, like 28-inch opening or something like that. So even on a 1st floor unit, it was not going to work.
yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Thank you all. Can I just ask, because I do need to ask, is there anything else we want to add to the capital items that anyone thinks we might have missed? It's okay, you don't have to tell me now, you can think about it. Not, okay. So thank you for this. In terms of next steps, please, you all have access to this. Have a think. I will work on the follow-ups. Like I said, I have a kind of a series of like broad questions that I think we all want to ask. Can they come to the meetings? Can they provide an update? How was this funded? Just a couple of bullet points that hopefully will help inform how we decide to vote. And then I'm just seeing. And then I will send around the spreadsheet, which you all have access to already, and let you know, okay, these were the responses. We all need to rank, so that way I can submit to the staff. Again, there will be another kind of final opportunity to make revisions to it at the general meeting as well, because then we'll get a sense of what the other committees put forward. And if there are things that overlap, we can, work with them and sort it out. Okay. So yeah. Any old business? No. Okay. Any new business? Just a thank you to Sonia for taking minutes.
These were the worst. This was the worst meeting that I think.
Keep it light touch. There's a recording. Keep it light touch. And I'm happy to kind of help you with that. Thank you. I guess the only other thing is, oh goodness. if you volunteered to support with scheduling a presentation or a particular item, just again, have a think about it and send me a note so that we can start inviting those organizations to come. And I really like, I think it was your point, Indiana, around trying to schedule meetings around a particular theme. And so that we'll probably need to organize ourselves a little bit more just to make sure that we're inviting people for the, the right things and things. Sometimes we're at kind of the mercy of when they're available, but yeah. So with that, I get a call to motion to end the adjourn the meeting.
Again.
There wasn't even a motion, but okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, everyone. 9:39 p.m. Only 9 minutes later. It's a late meeting.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. See y'all later.
Travels.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.